Well, fishing, welcome to you, adventurer friend. You've worked your way to the fisherman's bottom. When you want fish for just a day, you can call a culinarian, but we fishermen feast for life. I've set the bait. Think you're ready to bite?
Do you wish to join the Fisherman's Guild? Sure.
Hooray, hooray! Looks like we've got a live one. Let me walk you through the life of a fisherman, Limsa Lominsa. Since we're surrounded by the seas, the fishing sites are a fisherman's delight. If you can't fish it here, you can't fish it anywhere. While some of us rope our fish with rods and reels, others skim the seabed with nets for creepy-crawly critters. You might say we cast a wide net. People prattle about our pullers just about everywhere in Limsa. And there's much and more I haven't mentioned. We shepherd the ships, preside over the ports, manage the mongers, all while making sure not to leave any adventurers out to sea. I'll wager you prefer to work alone, so we'll start you off with a rod and reel. Now, you may not necessarily net the numbers net fishing yields, but pull fishing positively pulls prettier prizes. And that's a long short of it. When you're ready for another bite of bait, I'll reel you in before the guildmaster. I'd hate to hear you've had a change of heart. You haven't, had you?
Way of the Fisher. Nomoclia would have you reaffirm your desire to join the Fisherman's Guild.
But unfortuitously, unfortunately, and somewhat ironically, our nefarious netmaster is out fishing at the moment. This moment and every other moment, that is. So Sisipu tends to tend to the tasks that require tending to, such as deciding whether you'll sink or swim with our guild. Sisipu's presiding over those pools, whether you decide to say hello. She might seem somewhat standoffish, but she's only keeping an eye out for sharks. Be yourself and have nothing to worry about. Yes, save your breath. I've heard every word between you and Nomokia, so I know that she told you my role here. As she said, Wawalago's supposed to be guildmaster, but apparently he has bigger fish to fry, so all his work falls to me. That includes making sure our new fish aren't shellfish idiots or potential enemies. You passed the first test by not laughing at that awful joke. Now you only need the right answer to this question. Are you prepared to fish like you've never fished before?
Are you prepared to fish like you've never fished before? Sure.
Well, you are smarter than the majority of bottom dwellers that find their way here. Welcome to the guild. Now, this wouldn't be as much of a guild if we sent you out to sea with only a pull and a prayer, so I suppose I can spare you a few pearls of wisdom. Nevertheless, you're still going to need that pull and prayer, so I can at least provide you with the former. Here you go. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. I'll even throw in these lugworms, since you're not like to get far without bait. The rods we bestow upon our new fish are priceless objects, which is to say they don't cost anything. Once you know what you're doing, you'll probably want a proper one. But in the meantime, let's see if you can figure out how to hold your pole. Ready the one I gave you, and your lessons can begin.
My first fishing rod. Sisipu would like to assign you your first task.
You're looking quite formidable. Let's hope that you don't scare all the fish away. Now, the first rule of fishing is to hold on to your rod. Take care of your rod, and your rod will take care of you. Let me know if I'm going too fast for you. Since you're new here, we're going to start small, and they don't come much smaller than anchovies. You'll find schools of anchovies swimming outside in Galadian Bay, so you can catch your meager supper without even walking 10 yolms. Anchovies are hardly the most cunning fish in the sea, making them an ideal first assignment. Simply bait a hook with some of the lugworms I gave you, dip it in the water, and the fish will practically catch themselves. To catch lemons and anchovies for Sisipu, first select a suitable lure by using the bait action. Next, approach the water and use cast action to begin fishing. You'll feel a tug on your line, use the hook action to reel your catch. Anchovies swim off every shore of Limsa Lominsa, so you can bring them back from anywhere you like, so long it's not the fishmongers.
Lemminson anchovy. These small saltwater fish form massive schools resembling colossal sea creatures to discourage predators from approaching.
Here, Chovy, Chovy. Here, Chovy, Chovy. Fair flock of feisty fish you got, Giddy Guppy. Careful they don't slip out of sight.
Oh, that's the dude. Sorry.
Well, Wabalago, to what do we owe the pleasure?
Guildmaster's got to get after the guppies, dividing up the daily drudgery, picking out the proper potable, and some such support and service.
And who gets after the Guildmaster? We have books to balance, you know. Books you should be balancing.
I did my best to balance the books, but the bilge keels bent the boat back, bouncing the whole batch off the boat.
That's not what... You know it was just an expression. That's neither here nor there. So long as you keep at the bit, Raid, our books will balance themselves. Don't let that go to your head, of course. Any beginner can snag some anchovies. But you'll need to experiment in different lures and explore new waters if you want to catch the big ones.
Fundamentals are fine, but the fun in fishing for new finds. Like my uncle always said, fishing's like philandering. You never know what you catch.
And with those well-spoken words of wisdom, we will leave you to your wiles.
Bigger fish to fry. Sisipu has a trial of mine for you.
I smell that you haven't been neglecting your duties. A commendable attitude. No one's ever gotten worse at anything by practicing. No one I know, at least. Then again, you can't expect the same old tricks to work with new fish. Big ones don't grow to be that way by chasing everything that wiggles on a hook. To catch the fish you want, you must first know what the fish wants. Only once their prize is at stake can you tantalize and tempt your prey to taste the forbidden tackle. Anchovies may be willing to settle for lugworms, but harbor herring have a discerning palate that prefers pillbugs. But don't take my word for it. Go see to yourself. Pick up some pillbugs from Sinal Hill over there in West Hawker's Alley, and use them to catch 3 local harbor herring. Like anchovies, they can be caught right outside. In case you have a mind to return to your previous spot, you should know that fish aren't so as foolish as most might think. Keep casting your line in the same waters. You'll find that fewer folk will take the bait. Bring me 3 harbor herring, Raid. This will test both your ability to use pillbugs as bait and your ability to count.
Harbor herring. This particular variety of herring will gather in busy harbors to feed on the small sea creatures which consume the waste dumped from ships.
There's nothing better than salted harbor herring, save perhaps fried harbor herring, or grilled. No, definitely salted.
You know, in the yesteryears of my youth, I used every fish I yanked out and yield a bigger one. A good gamble until the game got gargantuan. I guess I got greedy.
Well, where did you... Well, sometimes it's best to throw back the big ones.
Good gods, what's a guildmaster got to do to garner a gain of gratitude?
Acting respectable would be a start.
Respectable? I salted the seas and snared everything that swam in them.
And that would be an accomplishment if by everything that swam in them you meant fish and not lady divers. All you ever brought back were stories about carousing and with trollops. But chauvinism is just a red herring. The harbor herring is what's important, namely the lesson of thinking from the perspective of the fish when selecting bait. In that regard, I can say you have truly the mind of a fish, so here's a treat. Some of it might seem like gibberish at first, but as you make observations and jot down notes, eventually all of it will be gibberish. Well, take some time to study up, and be careful not to fry your fish, Bane. You'll need it for your next lesson. Princess and the Fish. For your next lesson, Sisypoo will send you off into the wild. What's that in your eye, Raid? I know that glimmer. It's the eye of the fisher. It's the thrill of the bite, rising up to the challenge of our rival. Oh, God, no. Why? I honestly didn't notice that. Or it's been so long that I forgot about it. But, wow. English translation team never ceases to amaze. Anyway, keep that spark alive, friend. You don't want to end up like Wawalago. Not that I'm worried about you. Oh yes, I can see it. There's a fire inside you, burning for fish. More fish, bigger fish. It's time to feed that fire. Today is the day you catch your first big one. No one ever forgets the first. Journey forth to the banks of the Nim in Middle Laonosia. There you will find her, the Princess Trout. Take the princess and return here a man. Her Royal Highness is drawn to crayfish balls. You'll find the Princess Trout in the Nim River, Raid. Don't forget to take your crayfish balls. Princess Trout. Unlike other freshwater trout which make their habitat in swift-flowing rivers, the silver princess trout prefers the relative seclusion of inland lakes. Depending on your perspective, you've either rescued or abducted the princess. A prim and proper princess she is. We'll ready her as a royal roast, a feast fit for a king. The king can keep his fancy feast. Any fisherman worth her salt prefers her trout prepared simply.
Said like a silly, salty-mouthed sea hag. Hand her over here. I'll heed how the cultured classes cook.
A fine day it will be when I take culture lessons from you. Besides, I didn't send Raid out to that river to fetch a fish for you. I sent him to fetch a fish for me. Ahem. For my lesson, that is. Yes, of course. That was the purpose of the expedition. Anyway, you should have, should have learned, catching a proper fish requires perseverance, plain and simple. And this plump princess trout can testify to that. Continue to apply the lessons I've taught you, and before you know it, you'll be swimming in fish. Doesn't that sound appetizing? Every fish has a silver lining. Sisypoo could use a helping hand with an unexpected order. I've been thinking, Raid, now that you can catch more fish than you can eat, it's time that you learned a little about the art of fishmongering. Normally, customers purchase fish that have already been caught, but a certain Kikirin cellular has a pre-chant for freshness. Unfortunately, the fishermen who usually fill his orders have all, somewhat ironically, gone fishing. And so I turn to you, Raid. I'm hoping you can talk to Choo-Choo-Roon over there, or at least listen to him. Choo-Choo-Roon, the sailor sails the seas. You the fisherman fish the fish? Looking out as lookout. Choo-Choo-Roon for spots in water. Jumping silverfish jump, flashing silver flashies. Choo-Choo-Roon wishes to taste silverfish taste. Choo-Choo-Roon pay good silver if you have fished 5 good silverfish. Well, Choo-Choo-Roon has a way of words, doesn't he? Unfortunately, his way appears to be repeating the word silverfish. Only the most experienced fisherman would have been able to decipher that nonsense. This sounds like a job for Wawalago, since I'm busy doing his job. Rest assured, what he may lack in sense, he more than makes up for in nonsense. Since when is it civil to sneak up and scare your seniors? I suddenly suspected Sisypoo sent you to slit my stomach. That woman's well aware of my weakness. If she's going to shout about the way I shove down shrimp, she should know the better than leave them showing on the shelf. Or is that not why you're here? Setting table setting aside, I bet you shells the shellfish I know what the Kikarin spied. If it was silver and sauntered while skimming the sea, I'm somewhat certain that he saw a navigator's dagger. Daggers don't lend themselves to a Lominson's liking, but the settlers of southerly isles stir them into soup stock. You can find them by the brewer's beacon. Snaring one is a slippery slight for a starter, but I have a flitting flick of the fist for a fisherman with a gull's eye like you have. Now, daggers are drawn to decoys that dangle, so do yourself a favor and fetch some rat tails for them to flash the fins at. You fish and catch 5 fish for Chochorun? Navigator's dagger. These thin, long saltwater fish will oft jump out of the water and glide for yalms across the surface, using their pectoral fins as ersatz wings. The shiny shine, the smelly smell. Can't wait to taste tasty taste. Oh, looks like we found the fish you were after. You find fine. Maybe chicharron season with season, or smoke with smoke, or maybe grill on grill. Many cooking options for cook. My, you're certainly putting on a great deal of thought into this. Ha ha ha! Chicharron gifted to feast on feast gift. Best Chicharron regard you with Chicharron's best regards. We're always grateful for your patronage, Chicharron. Please see him out and return here afterwards, Raid. We've more to discuss. Phew, I'm glad you're here to handle that sudden request. So many of these freeloading fishermen can't be bothered to stay ashore for more than a day at a time. You, on the other hand, have proven far more reliable. I can think of at least one Kikarin that would agree. Now that you've seen how rewarding fishmongering can be, I hope you'll take the initiative to try it yourself. A fish in hot water. Sissipu would teach you the advantages of fishing without live bait. You might recall Chicharron, the babble-spewing fish connoisseur? Perhaps not, but he certainly recalls you. Apparently there weren't enough fish in the sea, so he set his sights on freshwater fish. He's even tried catching them himself, though that's proved problematic so far. While Kikaroon possess a healthy appetite for fish, they lack the necessary patience and often end up eating their own bait. The problem has a relatively straightforward solution, employing a lure in the place of bait. Unfortunately, this straightforward solution regards a roundabout demonstration, as Chicharron does not readily accept the concept of inedible bait. Only you might snag 5 warm water trout with crow flies, you might come to see the light. The fish are decided to populate the shores of Oakwood and Upper La Nocia, though I can't say I've been recently. I consider it inauspicious to cast one's line under the watchful gaze of a giant sea serpent. How can Raid bait fish without bait? Warm water trout. This freshwater fish was once found only in the waters heated by the flows of lava coursing beneath the mighty volcano Ogomoro. After the calamity, however, fishers began finding the wavekin in other warm locations such as Thanolin. You truly fish trout using fake food? Indeed, for all the fish know, the lure may well be alive. Raid skillfully use them to catch these tasty tasties. You see, Chicharron, deception lies at the heart of fishing. Yes, lies lie at the heart of fishing. Chicharron is no fool. Chicharron, fool fish. Precisely. Well, I trust we have managed to guide you here on the path of self-sufficient fishing.
But where am I going? A game of cat and fish. Sisipu would have you learn a new technique.
You're familiar with the Culinarians Guild, aren't you, Raid? If you couldn't tell by its supercilious name, sure. Their members are a finicky bunch, particularly the fussy master Langseth. So when he comes asking for shadow catfish, no other fish will do, even if I kindly explain that fishing one out involves an endurous journey to Fallgourd Float, followed by a grueling labor. Naturally, I thought of you for the task. This will likely require a bit of fish wheeling, if you know what I mean, though I imagine you do not, as I just invented that word. It means recasting a fish you just caught as bait for yet larger fish. In my wisdom, I have deemed that your fishing prowess, land-faring acumen, and physical presence directly in front of me qualify you as the ideal candidate for the job. I have no doubts that you'll be more than aptly capable of fish wheeling or any other new terms I see fit to conjure up, for that matter. Simply use crayfish balls to catch a striped goby, then recast that to catch the shadow catfish. Take it from the inventor of fish wheeling, since the striped goby will become your lure, you'll want to catch the biggest, shiniest one you can find. Long journey lies ahead of you, and I fear the guild will not be the same in your absence. However, I choose to think of it not as losing a friend, but gaining a shadow catfish. Good luck! You'll find the catfish you seek at Fallgourd Float in the North Shroud. Mayhap it's a tad presumptuous to say you will find one. That's where they are, at any rate.
Shadow catfish, a large whiskered fish that can be found in the calm marshes of the Black Shroud.
Langseth ought to crack a smile when he glimpses this beauty. They say never look a gift to fish in the mouth, but one can't help but stare at that gaping grimace. It looks like it could swallow a person whole. I'm sure the fish of Gridania are none too displeased to see this one leave the water. I heard that Yarzans covet the fish too, sometimes migrating north and attacking fishermen in hopes of stealing their catch. Suppose I should have warned you about that ahead of time. Still, I don't see what the fuss is all about. For all the lengths one need to travel and dangers one need brave, the fish taste little better than mud. Psst. Pardon me, but perhaps I might persuade you to prepare them in a proper bath. Water washes off the waste you can wipe away, but the invisible vapors only vanish with vinegar. You must mind the mud you can't see. Speaking of mud you can't see, where did you come out of all of a sudden? A good guildmaster gushed in and goes out a gale. Now you see me, now you don't. Actually, I think we're both still seeing you standing right there. But that is neither here nor there, Raid. There are a few fishermen who could haul in a catch that you did today. Frankly, I've started to wonder how we ever got along without you.
Like fish passing through in the night, Sisipu would have you attend to another incomprehensible customer.
The catfish you fetched for Langseth has raised quite a stir. He was so pleased with the quality and quickness of the delivery that he's been raving about you to anyone within earshot. And now the word circulating around Limsa of a fabled fisherman has reached the ears of your fellow guildmates. Though most of them have no idea who you are, it doesn't stop the lazy sunbathers from fabricating folk stories about you. Meanwhile, Chichirune's done his part to add to your fame, singing your praises well beyond the walls of the guild. So well beyond the walls, in fact, that goblins have come to enlist your help. Toktix is a friend of Chichirune's, so we're somewhat obligated to hear him out, though I don't expect him to be much more intelligible. Loath I am to admit it, we'll most likely need Wawalago again.
Tutural told many glory tales of mighty Fisherbringer to Toctix. Toctix is friend, Chicharuna's friend. Fishbringer is a friendly friend, yes? Moon was shining on Easter seas of La Nocia when most lovely fish appeared. Toctix wonder if friendly friend Fishbringer can bring back lovely fish from Moonsea.
So Goblin gets a glimpse of some gills, and I'm to guess the game. Naturally, I know what you need to net. I'm only surprised you saw fit to solicit my support. The moment you mentioned the moon and the easternness of La Nocia, I figured out the frisky fish you're fixing to fetch. Full moon sardines. Schools of striplings migrate under moonlight through the Strait of Merlthor to return to their mothers or meet their makers. Tastiest time to take them, too. Pluck them plumb in their prime. From dusk to dawn, droves drip and dive down Bloodshore. Spinning spoonworms in the water will snag you some sardines and sate your sponsor.
A 10 fish of Moonfo is for Toctix?
Full moon sardine, a tiny saltwater fish native to the waters of Vilbrand. Unlike other wavekin, they feed only at night, their activity increasing as Memphina waxes.
Yes, Fishbringer has brought lovely fish from the Moonsea. Ah, first eye catch of lovely fish is still fresh in brain case of Toctix. Toctix are dreamings to taste lovely fish. Friendly friend Fishbringer has made true Toctix's big dreams. Glory tales of Chucharoon are no silly babble. Fishbringer is Fishbringer of fairy legends. Toctix makes sure every gobby knows Fishbringer fairy legend.
Congratulations, Fishbringer! Fame with fast-trading goblins is liable to bring you fortune. Although you might want to find a less pungent title, so as not to drive away other prospective patrons. But what's in a title? That which we call Fishbringer by any other name would smell as sweet. A fish out of water. Sissipu would send you to Thanalan to aid Toctix once more. Your goblin-friendly friend was looking for you earlier. He was hoping you'd make his fishiest fantasies come true. He recalled a dish that tickles his fancy some years ago, and now needs you to procure the necessary fish for him. The desert catfish, as it is apparently called, is indigenous to, and this is the truly mind-boggling part, the desert of all places. Toctix spoke of a trapper named Ugoromuli who fished one out of Forgotten Springs in the southern reaches of Thanalan. If you want that catfish, you best go speak to her. Friend with Toctix, you say? Sure, Doomfish my fair share of desert catfish. Never eat them, though. Know that much. Only ever use them as sandworm bait. Though of eating desert catfish hadn't occurred to me until the goblin devoured it before my eyes. Still wouldn't touch them myself. Different fish for different folk, as they say. No problem fishing them out, though. Can even tell you how it's done. Just comes down to the right bait in the right place. Nothing to it, really. Easy as dropping a line with some sand leeches and fishing in the fishing hole east of Biogrot Strike near the Almajah encampment. Not the same as sea fishing here in the dunes, mind you. Real test of your reel out there. Trick is to hold on when it flails. Only takes one to make a day's haul. Good hunting.
Fisher find tasty fresh fish cat in sandy lands for friendly friend tactics?
Desert catfish, a large variety of air-breathing catfish. Its near frictionless scales allow it to swim through the desert as normal fish would through water.
Tactics is Thanksgiving to Fishbringer for lip-smacking fish cat. Fish cat nose strings make for strengthful satchel strands. TikTok trades tongue flaps with Langsath for fancy cooking of fish cat in Bismarck. Langsath only fancy cooks after shotlock because of strengthful fish cat order. Fishbringer makes tactics one happy gaudy.
Fishing in the rain. Sisipu would have you assist with a request of some importance. Just the fish I was hoping to see. Uncanny timing, as always. The celebrity you have achieved has resulted in more obscure requests than I know what to do with. Your dune fishing escapades in particular have raised eyebrows. The truly eccentric requests I've seen fit to turn away, but who can say no to the Brugia Consortium? I, for one, cannot. Perhaps you'll have something else to say when you speak with Cybele. She's waiting for you outside the guild. Ah, Raid, I take it. The legends say you are rugged, but failed to mention how delectable you are as well. I've no doubt our time together will be advantageous to us both. To business, then. I want you to bring me rain colors from Gridania's Jade-lit flood. However, there's a catch to this catch. Rain colors spend most of their time lying dormant on the bed of the water, active only when the rains come. Keep an eye to the skies. You'll need a fish to be aroused so that bite at the bait. Stem borers are the most effective, or so I'm told. As to why we want them, well, the fish are prized by wealthy Oldans for possessing certain properties. And it is the custom of the Brugia Consortium to fulfill unconventional needs and desires. 5 rain colors are all we require to satisfy these aristocrats' needs. Bring us 5 rain colors for Gridania's Jadeite flood. We will make it worth your while. Rain color, a deep blue freshwater fish native to the lakes and swamps of the Black Shroud. They can be sticking their heads out of the water whenever it rains, leading people to believe it is the fish summoning the storm. However, naturalists who have surmised that the fish are simply rising to the surface in search for food, mistaking the drops of water for insects. I knew you were the right lad for the job. Who else could deliver such rare and virile specimens? These will suit the Aldan's purposes quite well. The elder males have been led to believe that ingesting the rain colors will endow them with, let us say, vigor. No one knows whether it is true, and I don't personally care to find out. I only know that rich men will stop at nothing to recapture their former glory, and so these fish should fetch a fair price at market. Speaking of fetching, I'm quite impressed at your handiwork, Raid. The Consortium will be pleased. Of course, you please more than just the Consortium. I look forward to seeing more of you. I believe fish can fly. Sisipu wishes to assign you to another commission from the Bruguer and Consortium. Oh, so you haven't forgotten the old Fisherman's Guild. Good to see that all the prestige and glamour that accompanies fishing stardom hasn't gone to your head. It's a wonder your head hasn't popped with all the sardine and catfish fables inflating your legend to prodigious proportions. And to think, I knew you when you were still dredging anchovies out of the muck. Rest assured that whatever greatness you go on to achieve, you'll always be a sorry scrap of kelp that floated into the guild one fateful day, as far as I'm concerned. Now go speak with Cybele and see to her request. Didn't you notice her waiting for you outside? Ah, Raid. The libidinous lords of Uldar were terribly excited by the rain collars you reeled in, sending our profits soaring accordingly. And so I come to lay yet another challenge before you. You have conquered the waves and dunes, but what of the clouds? Only you are heavenly enough to fish the cloud cutters that swim the low skies of Ishgard within the sea of clouds. I, too, doubted my ears upon hearing of such a fish, but Carvelian's resolve was adamant, and he will hear no protests. Besides, I've never been one to say no. Luckily for us, the Bruguer Consortium has friends in high places, namely the Highlands of Quarthus. You want to seek out Permanent in White Brim Front. He will tell you all you need to know. Confident you will prevail in your conquests, I have rendered full payment to Sisipu in advance. You need only bring her 5 cloud cutters to satisfy me. Whoop, pardon. Greetings, traveler. Visitors from Limsa Lomensa are rare to these climes. I'm told you seek to fish the magnificent cloud cutters that grace the sea of clouds. As squires, we practice catching our dinner, but the task is trying for even the most experienced among us. How one unaccustomed to the chore might hope to succeed where so many accomplished fishermen have failed is beyond me, but mine is not to stand in the way of foolhardy endeavors. The fish float upon the inflating pockets of vapor, allowing them to ride the currents of air. They are thus able to escape predators and take refuge in the clouds. Moreover, an aerial fish requires an aerial worm, and in this case, hoverworms. Such is the extent of the knowledge that I will confer to you. I fear the remainder is a matter of experience and skill. I should wish you good luck. You'll surely need it. So, you are to pluck 5 cloud cutters from the skies of Quarthus. Are we certain these aren't birds? Cloud cutter, the swiftest inhabitants of the Sea of Clouds. Cloud cutters will fly straight in a single direction for moments before quickly turning at some unthinkable angle and darting off in another direction. The fabled cloud cutters! It turns out they weren't birds after all. Just like jellyfish, they jump, jerk, and jolt to jiggle themselves up. Well, speaking of things that float around aimlessly, Ishgardians consider the cloud crutter the crest of class and character, and prefer them to commemorate and congratulate countrymen who conduct a cut above the clouds, if you will. I won't, but what use would it be to Caravelian? Local lore alleges that a legendary Ellison in Limsa is actually an Ishgardian lord. I wonder what you'd do if it were Caravelian. I would do what I'm going to do anyway. Deliver the fish. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Sisipu needs your help with an emergency. Gods, this is unbelievable. According to the age-old adage, when the going gets tough, the tough go fishing. Fortunately, the adage is of little use when the tough going happens to be a fishing ban. Huh? You haven't heard, have you? Einzar Slesisian has closed all docks and ports for fishing vessels on authority of the Admiral Merliweb. Some sorry sailor supposedly spotted a serpent at sea, and so Slesisian stated that for our safety, our services must cease. It's all so frustrating. Well, we may be a group of sedentary fishers, but we're not about to take this sitting down. Easy now. First, we need to know what we're up against. The Brugair Consortium maintains ties to the Maelstrom, so Cybele may know something that we do not. It's time to go fishing for information. Okay. It is certainly a pleasure to see you again, though I wish it was under happier circumstances. News came to a shocker to us as well. Any Laminson who's ever boarded a boat has heard the tale. Back when the world was naught but a dry, lifeless rock, Limeling created a giant serpent. From its massive maw, the creature spat forth water until the land was filled. But it would not stop. To prevent the world from being completely submerged, the navigator trapped the serpent in a floating island with the warning that if it were ever to be freed, the seas would rise until the world ended. This is from the thalassocratic motto, "Till sea swallows all," comes. You can imagine the admiral's surprise upon learning a sailor claims to have actually seen the serpent in question. While you and I may recognize it as a fairy tale aimed to scare children, the panic in the streets is real, and so Sleifsrin hasn't any choice but to take drastic measures in order to maintain the peace. Regrettably, those drastic measures have dire consequences for both your guild and my consortium. And the Maelstrom is too occupied with ship inaugurations to conduct a proper inquiry, meaning our only hope is to take matters into our own firm yet supple hands. It may be impossible to prove the sea serpent does not exist, but perhaps the testimony of the eyewitnesses can be impunged. I believe you have met the sailor responsible for the sighting, the one known as Chuchurun. Chuchurun see big fish at sea. Some say see sea serpent. Chuchurun just want fish to fish. See fishermen a while ago about fishing fish in sea. Ah. I've seen enough at sea to know when the sailors are seeing things, and what Chuchurun saw was no sea serpent for sure. Missing your marks will make mountains out of molehills. Distances deceive and delude the minds of men at sea. My buddy says your serpent was a Maslea marlin, a fairly big fish, but by no means a monster. You can see them barreling back and forth along the north of Bloodshore. But if spied from the shore, people will just shrug their shoulders. You need to make them meet that marlin up close and personal. I admit it's easier expressed than executed. I've never nabbed one. If you don't loosen up your line, they rip your rod right out of your hands. But first, you need a bite. They won't waste their breath on worms from other waters. Maslaya marlin demand mooching, more familiar to you as fish wheeling, perhaps. And not just any mean act of mooching, but the daunting duty of the dramatic double mooch. I reckon you're ready for it. Get a goby ball and haul in a harbor herring. Once you hitched your herring, offer it up to an ogre barracuda, then bait the beast to make the Maslaya marlin bite. Makes me want to sail out myself, but Slathizern would slay any guildmaster who slights him. Besides, I'm sure Sisypoo would sooner see you succeed at it. God, I can't believe we're reduced to this. Still, while Wawalago's never been right for running a guild, he's never been wrong about a fish. If he says our serpent is a Maslaya marlin, that's what it is. Maslaya marlin, a large saltwater fish found in the warm waters south of the Sea of Ash and known for its remarkable swimming speed. That's the marlin? I can see how some might mistake it for a monster. Hopefully, Slathizern will see it the same. Come, Cybele arranged for us to speak with the Grand Storm Marshal.
So many moons has it been, I can scarcely remember the last time I boarded a merchant ship for anything other than an inspection. Quite comfortable indeed aboard the luxurious fleet of the Bruguera Consortium, no doubt to put crooked mongers and traffickers at ease while making illicit deals at sea.
Perish the thought. We'd never dream of calling the Grand Storm Marshal to a vessel where such roguery took place.
A shame. I imagine those sorts of vessels were the most fun. I suppose we'd best tend to business.
Of course, sir. Allow me to introduce you to the Maslaya marlin.
Great Limian's ghost! The blary thing is massive. However did you catch it? Though I suppose that doesn't matter. At any rate, it is your contention that this marlin is our sea serpent?
You can sing yourself to sleep with that silly sea serpent story, but it still won't hold water. I knew things were proceeding too smoothly. You always know just the wrong time to act as the guildmaster, don't you?
Never you mind. I've known Wawalago long enough not to mind his manners. Unlike his fish, I know when I'm being baited.
Boy, you've been baiting and bullying us with your ban. Will you let up and lift it?
A fine question. To lift a fishing ban, or not to lift a fishing ban. What to do, what to do, what to do. On the one hand, I could lift the ban, but on the other...
Now who's the one baiting?
Why not? Of course, there are formalities we must observe, so I'm afraid the declaration will have to wait till the morrow.
And the ban will be lifted, won't it?
Unless you prefer it weren't.
By no means, it's just... I feared that simply bringing you a large fish might fail to serve as adequate evidence in overturning a formal military promulgation.
Well, I've never really believed all this sea serpent silliness in the first place. It was more about putting Laminson's minds at ease than anything else. And this marlin you've brought to me should accomplish just that. A few of our more paranoid conspiracy theorists in the Maelstrom allege that the serpent be a part of an elaborate Sahuagin plot, so this should make for a nice laugh at their expense as well. And to think this all started because someone spotted a large fish. And because fishtails aren't wont to grow in size, the large fish became serpent-sized, and then ceased to be a fish altogether. Makes you wonder about what other sorts of overblown fantasies we've all been led to believe.
Sounds like you're ready to lift the span whether we brought you the marlin or not.
If it were only that simple, a fine Grand Store Marshal I would be if I went lifting bans willy-nilly without any evidence the problem had been solved. This marlin is essential in assuaging the irrational fears of the public.
Well then, I suppose Raid's efforts weren't for naught, after all. I only wonder how the fish tail grew out of proportion in the first place.
I don't delight in delving in details, but that deed might have been my doing.
Why am I not surprised?
When I mentioned to Chuchurun that the Maslaya Marlin was a monster, I meant it metaphorically, but perhaps he understood. I think it would be for the best interest of all involved if I don't hear any more of this story. The Maelstrom expresses its gratitude for your efforts in bringing this evidence to light. Your guild will be notified when the fishing ban is formally lifted. I bid you good day.
Terrifying to think a little exaggeration can get out of hand, particularly when you consider how often fishermen exaggerate. But it sounds like Slafsrin knew something was fishy all along. Nevertheless, you saved our guild from destruction at the hands of an imaginary sea serpent. Funny how Nimilkia delivered you to our doorstep just when we needed you most. And I certainly can't consider you a guppy anymore, now that you've caught a marlin the Grandmaster himself never quite reeled in. I'd say we name you Guildmaster, but then Wabalago would have nothing to dodge. I'm not ready to let that fish off the hook so easily, but I suppose we can at least let him know he has a rival. And that might be your finest fishing accomplishment of all, luring Wabalago back to work.